In here is the same model as one of the first guitars I ever got. Back in 2013 I was in love with the Gibson Les Paul Custom, but I didn't have the money for the original. I didn't have much experience anyway. The first generation of the Les Paul Prophecy was available back then, but it looked nothing like the blacked out version of a Les Paul that I wanted. Even back then I knew I didn't want the shreddy stuff 24 frets, I just wanted the blacked out version of the Les Paul Custom, so I got one of these. The first signature guitar for Matt Heafy from Trivium, the Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Finally, I have the chance to show you guys one of these.
So as you can see that the guitar is coming out, or has been out, and it's the Matthew Kichi Heafy signature Epiphone Les Paul Custom. Basically it's been worked on for the last year and a half or 2 years through Epiphone and I, where we took my original Gibson Les Paul Custom, the one that I got when I was 12 years old, and they modeled basically everything after it, the playability, the specs, the color, the weights, everything that could possibly be checked up on that guitar, and they applied it to one of their guitars. It was my dad's dream, even before he had a son, to have a son that played a Les Paul Custom. So I think it's genetically imprinted on me to want to play the guitar. So I took the original Les Paul Custom, swapped it out to all black hardware. A big gripe that I've always had with the Les Paul Custom is the boxy back of the neck when you're playing up high. So what we did is we added the Les Paul Access heel right here, the same thing that Les Paul Access has. So it allows a lot more accessibility to the higher strings and the higher frets and everything like that. The weight, I wanted to keep it identical to the old guitar, the old Gibson Les Paul Custom that I had, so that's something that I feel is very important. I've always liked to have a little more weight on it. I don't like a guitar to be too light or to be too heavy. I've tried the very heavy thing and I think I almost broke my back doing it. It's been battered to hell, as you can see. I actually play this one, the same one that will be in the stores. A big thing for me with the Matt Heafy signature Les Paul Custom was affordability. Epiphone was entirely open for working on that because in my mind there are going to be a lot of younger Trivium fans wanting to pick up guitar, maybe for the first time, or maybe upgrade a starter guitar to this, or even a touring musician who's at the pro level who maybe likes what I do and wanted to pick up one of the guitars. They can all afford it. I wanted it to be something that can be affordable no matter your walk of life, and that still holds the quality that it's, hey, that's the same guitar Matt's playing on stage that I can get in a store, versus Matt's playing the $10,000 version and you're playing the easier to afford version. So it'll be the same thing that I'm playing that you're gonna be able to get. And that was incredibly important to me, and I think that you'll see the difference.
The year was 2013. Trivium had released In Waves the year prior to that. In my opinion, one of their best albums ever made. Songs like Black, Built to Fall, In Waves, they just stuck with me. Here's the thing, I like a lot of guitar players, but my main influences are James Hetfield from Metallica and Matt Heafy from Trivium. I saw a couple of Matt's videos where he shared that his big influence is James Hetfield as well. And what do James and Matt have in common? The heavy, percussive rhythm playing. James is mainly known for his Explorer and V-shaped guitars, but I've seen him use Les Paul Customs as well. Imagine how stoked I was when I saw Epiphone announcing the Matt Heafy signature. A blacked out Les Paul Custom with EMG pickups, which was also affordable. I wanted that thing so bad back in 2013. I've seen Matt's video explaining about the 6 and 7 string version for like probably 100 times. I'm not gonna bore you with the full story of how I got my first Matt Heafy signature. I've explained this story in my video review of the Les Paul Prophecy, the first generation, so I'm gonna link that above. Long story short, I got my first serious job, my first salary, and naturally I ordered a Matt Heafy signature 6 string. I owned the Matt Heafy for quite some time. I actually did a lot of covers with it, some of them pretty successful, surprisingly successful. I even kept it after buying an actual Gibson Les Paul Custom Silver Burst. Me and my former bandmate used both guitars to record a Built to Fall cover. Back then, we used the Fractal Axe effects to track it. Eventually I ended up owning both amps in the back, the Diesel and the Angle. The Matt Heafy combined with the Fractal Wax effects sounded so close to the original, people were actually accusing me for not playing the songs. I had to post guitar tracks on SoundCloud, so it sounded good, it was shaped like a Les Paul, it was affordable, and it was a Matt Heafy signature. It was insanely well priced for around $700, and it was a bargain back when I couldn't afford a Les Paul Custom Gibson. The Gibson was around $3,000 brand new back then, which by today's standards is nothing, they skyrocketed in price. But it was a lot of money and I couldn't afford it. Now that I've owned over 6 Les Paul Customs throughout the years, including this 96 Gibson Les Paul Custom Black and Gold, which I completely blacked out and it ended up replacing my Epiphone Matt Heafy. Almost 10 years later and with a bit of an experience on my back, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a different perspective on the Matt Heafy signature throughout the course of this video and in the conclusion. Let's start with the specs.
Epiphone and Trivium's Matt Heafy present the limited edition Matt Heafy Les Paul Custom. Matt Heafy's signature Les Paul features an all blacked out ebony gloss finish that's especially striking on the sleek profile of a Les Paul Custom. It features a mahogany body with a plain maple veneer top. The mahogany neck has a fast 1960s slim taper D profile with a glued-in deep set neck joint and an access heel for a smooth and easy reach to the upper frets. The scale length is 24.75 inches, and the ebony fingerboard has a 12-inch radius and 22 medium jumbo frets. Each guitar features beautiful 7-ply white and black binding on the top and 5-ply binding on the headstock. The fingerboard features single-ply white binding. The Matt Heafy Les Paul Custom features Epiphone's no-compromise electronics, including a 1/4-inch non-rotating output jack and volume and tone controls with black speed knobs that are powered by full-size 500K potentiometers. The pickup switch is Epiphone's all-metal 3-way pickup selector with a black toggle cap. The Matt Heafy Les Paul Custom features an EMG 85 in the neck position and an EMG 81 in the bridge position. Like all Epiphones, the Matt Heafy Les Paul Custom includes Epiphone's made-to-last heavy-duty hardware, including Epiphone strap locks and a black Locktone Tune-o-matic stut bar bridge and tailpiece. It also features deluxe die-cast machine heads with metal tulip buttons.
Unfortunately, I have very little time with this one, but I'm still gonna try and do my best to clean it up. I'm gonna polish those frets with Frine, I'm gonna oil the fingerboard, I'm gonna try to clean up whatever the previous owner was using for tuning stability on the nut and the bridge, some sort of paste or graphite. Let's go through the specs from the commercial. So we have a multiple piece mahogany body, a plain maple top, probably 2 pieces, mahogany neck with a set neck construction and access heel, real ebony fingerboard, 22 frets, 12-inch radius, 24.75-inch scale length. We got the old style of Epiphone headstock, meaning the old before the inspired by Gibson Kalamazoo one, with the diamond, the logo, black tuners, blacked out hardware. We have a set of EMG 85, 81 pickups, an Epiphone Locktone bridge and a tailpiece, and the traditional controls with a kill pot. The usual in the compartment under the pickups, we see the routing, I see some shooting paint in both cavities, the quick connect system for the EMG pickups in there as well. This is the original set of EMG pickups that the guitar came with, made in April of 2013. This is the EMG 85 for the neck position. For the bridge we should have an EMG 81, and indeed we do, made in the same month, April 2013. This is indeed the original set. All the screws for the pickup rings are short. Not a big deal, okay. The controls are bridge volume, bridge tone, neck tone, and into the neck tone we have an integrated kill pot. I'm gonna demonstrate it in a second when measuring the pickups. The bridge EMG 81 is at 1677 k ohms, the neck EMG 85 is at 1724. Both pickups are at 850, and now I'm gonna show you what the kill pot does. When you press and hold it, it stops your entire signal. The bridge is a blacked out version of the Epiphone Locktone, Epiphone logo on the bottom, grabs to the poles here with some locking mechanisms, individual saddles, metric, thumb wheel and screwdriver adjustable. Same goes for the tailpiece, it is Epiphone Locktone. I love these, they're pretty useful when you're restringing a guitar. Nothing too fancy in front, this is a solid black finish on a plain maple top, 7-ply binding around it, not on the back obviously, I'm gonna explain why. It is a curved top, as I said, nothing too special, just your regular Les Paul. The neck is made out of mahogany with a set neck construction and an axis heel. There is binding around the ebony fingerboard, black side dotting lace. And check it out, even though it's 2013, not the best year for Gibson, it has real ebony fingerboard. This was the feature that sold me on the Matt Heafy signature, and blocking lace on it just like the Gibson. These are not mother of pearl though, these are pearloid, they are decent, they look good. And just like a Les Paul, 22 frets, not like the 24 on the Prophecy series that I didn't like. This guitar is almost 10 years old now, and I noticed some cracks around the fret wire on the cream fingerboard, mainly around the fret wire, some other areas as well. Some of these, mine for example, came with a white nut, and I think black is a pretty obvious choice for them. This one is not perfectly flush with the side of the neck, but it's okay. In 2020, and for the new Matt Heafy signature, Epiphone switched to the Kalamazoo headstock, or the inspired by Gibson, but this one has the old style of headstock, which is slimmer and looks longer. Also the diamond is smaller on these headstocks. This logo and the diamond should be made out of pearloid, but this looks actually like a mother of pearl, I'm not entirely sure. In fact, let's compare it to the real thing. Here's the custom diamond on the Epiphone, and here it is on the Gibson Les Paul Custom, much bigger, reaching all the way to the truss rod cover. The middle portion of it sits right between the tuners. Also, maybe it's just me, but the 7-string version looks even weirder with the longer headstock and uneven tuners. I spy with my little eye a never-tuned bridge on a 7-string. Mud loves experimenting. The difference between pearloid blocking lace on the Epiphone and mother of pearl on the Gibson is much more evident. These react to the light much more lively compared to the plastic imitation on the Epiphone, but they're still decent. What's funny is that the Epiphone has a real ebony fingerboard, the Gibson is rich light. What about the binding? Did they manage to replicate the one on the Gibson? Not exactly. From far away, yes, but it's much whiter on the Gibson, it's yellowish here on the Epiphone. This is what the hole for the truss rod looks like, a pretty clean job, I must say. A two-way adjustable truss rod, and you have this Epiphone bell MKH written on it, Matt Heafy. But did you know that in the promotional video, he had the truss rod cover with his full name written on it. The nut measures at 43mm or 1.69 inch, but if we measure the fingerboard, it is 44 or 1.73. It's narrower than the fingerboard. A wide fingerboard at 53.6 on a chunky neck. I don't remember the Matt Heafy being that chunky. Well, at least it's decent around the first fret at 21.4mm or 0.84 inch. But check out this massive 12th fret. Damn, 26.6 or 1.04 inch. I know this is where the neck heel starts, but look at the 11th, the 10th fret. They are still chunky as hell. We got a massive full thickness body at 53mm. I imagine this is thicker than the Les Paul Custom, and still no binding for the back. And yep, check out the Les Paul Custom at 50.5. The Matt Heafy is thicker than the Les Paul Custom. The fingerboard radius at least is normal at 12 inches or 305mm. I really don't remember mine Matt Heafy having such a chunky D-shaped neck profile. It is massive, feels massive, it is flat. This is nowhere near the C-shaped 60 style of Les Paul Customs, and I don't think Matt Heafy had a 50 style with the chunkier neck. I don't know what's going on. Here's the back of the guitar, and something I didn't expect. There are quite a lot of pieces of mahogany forming the back. Do you see all the seam lines between the different pieces? It is pretty wavy in here. It is in waves. No? Okay, I'll see myself out. You've probably noticed that there's no binding on the back of this chunky Les Paul, but there's binding on the back of the Les Paul Custom. I mean, I understand why they didn't do it, it's because of the huge axis heel neck joint. And after measuring that mammoth 50 style D-shaped neck, I think Epiphone could have gone without the axis heel, just your regular set neck construction. Matt has huge hands, so he probably thought this is comfortable, but it is much chunkier than the C-shaped Custom. I had a hard time removing the cover for the three-way switch. The usual stuff, the paint was stuck to it. These were again made in a hurry in the factory, not waiting for the paint to dry as usual. And here's the plastic cover for it anyway. I had a hard time removing the electronics cover as well, but instead of messing around with the screwdriver, here's a trick for you. Just open up the battery compartment, like this, and pull it up. Just your typical plastic cover with a 9-volt battery box screwed to it. I've seen my fair share of these reviewing the 2nd and the 3rd gen Les Paul Prophecies. Here's the electronics compartment and let's shed some light onto it. I sure hope these lines are not an indication for a sandwich body, they're just markings from the router or something like that, because we already have a lot of pieces of mahogany for this body. I know some costs had to be cut, but come on. Anyway, EMG pods not on the quick connect system, and here is the kill pod. I'm gonna give you guys a close-up to check it out. Here it is, the brand is Shadow. Could somebody at Epiphone please explain the logic behind putting satin covers for the electronics on a gloss body? I mean, you have a blacked out body and you put in satin. I know it's because of the 9-volt battery box, but it wouldn't been sticking out so much if the covers were just gloss as the rest of the body. Black rectangular cover for the output jack, black nut as well. These are not the original strap buttons, but they are in the original position. This is the massive access heel that I told you about. If you have huge hands, I guess it's helpful for a high fret access. Remember 26.6 here around the 12th fret, it is still a massive neck. Now I'm really curious if this was made to accommodate for the 7-string version. I have to check one of these out. Do they have the same necks? Gloss finish, probably 3 pieces of mahogany, no volute, limited edition Epiphone Custom Shop logo, a QC sticker above this logo, and the black Epiphone tuners, nothing fancy or locking. And here we have the serial number 13 indicating that it's 2013, June of 2013, and 23 is the code for the Indonesian factory. Most signature Epiphones were made there. 4085 grams or exactly 9 pounds for the Epiphone Matte Heafy. Comparing it to my 2015 Gibson Les Paul Custom at almost 9.5 pounds, so they're just about right with the weight. Time to hear the Matte Heafy. Here's the owner of this beautiful Matt Heafy signature playing his original music. Some pretty cool riffs over there, dude. You can check his band out in Instagram and YouTube. They have an album coming up. Now give me some more chunky riffs. Damn good job, man. I'm looking forward to the album. Now on to the big questions. Is the Matt Heafy Les Paul signature Epiphone a good guitar? Yes, it is a good Epiphone. Is it a cool guitar? Hell yeah, it inspired me and a lot of other people. I even think that this is cooler than the new series of Origin Les Paul Custom that Matt Heafy has, but I have to review them to be absolutely sure. I just like the looks of this one better. Is it a good value? Well, back in 2013 this ended up costing me around $700 without a hard shell case, which is pretty sad because the Prophecy Les Paul Custom had the hard shell case. But anyway, this had the certificate of authenticity, the cool look, and you have to remember, these are EMG pickups in an Epiphone for $700. It kind of bothers me that they use so many pieces of mahogany for the body, but remember what Matt said. He wanted Epiphone to make these as affordable as possible for his youngest fans, including me. Yeah, I was young back then, I didn't have the money, and I was happy to be able to afford one of these before buying an actual Gibson Les Paul Custom. Props to Matt for using the Epiphone in live shows in the studio, and you can see the 7-string version in some of his latest videos from 1 year ago. This makes it so much more desirable to fans. You got the ebony board, you got the block inlays, you got the diamond. It was a Les Paul Custom with an axis heel, EMG pickups, locking hardware. So yeah, it was a good deal. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a good deal right now because these go for around $1,000, which I think they're not worth. And I'm talking about the excellent and mint condition ones with the certificate. My friend managed to get this in a good condition for around $400, which is a steal. I had a lot of fun revisiting one of my first guitars, and it made me curious about his new series of Les Paul Matt Heafy signature Origins. Looking forward to reviewing them.